Members, I have 6 o'clock, and if you're ready, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum tonight, and I'd like to invite Mr. Peace, if you would lead us in our invocation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was all for all. Father, thank you for another opportunity to serve the children of this county, serve the teachers, staff, and the community at large. I pray that all of us remain safe. Bless the board that we make decisions in the best interest of the children of this county. All these things we ask. Amen.
Ms. Williams, if you lead us in our pledge of allegiance.
Yes, so the board please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Blaine, if you would join me at the podium. Board members, it's my honor and pleasure to be able to recognize our outgoing board members this evening for their service and time to Granville County Public Schools. The first we'd like to recognize is Ms. Lynn Aubrey. Ms. Aubrey stepped up at a time to fill a district vacancy, and she served with us from 2019 to 2020 with distinction, with caring, and just did a really good job. And so, Ms. Lynn, we are sad to see you go. We know that you will still be involved in Granville County Schools. We would like to invite you to come now.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. I miss you.
Board members, it's my honor to recognize another outgoing board member, Mr. Danny Judy, who has served a 6-year term from 2014 to 2020. Most recently, Mr. Judy has served as vice chair. He has served with distinction of this board over his 6 years, relaying a lot of his experiences through work and life. So that we can help the students of Granville County Public Schools. And Mr. Judy, we are thankful for your service. And again, we too will call on you from time to time to offer those. And just, we again proudly salute you, sir.
Congratulations, sir.
Madam Superintendent, it gives me honor for us to come to the part of our meeting where we will swear in 2 new board members, and 2 new board members and 1 returning board member. It's been a little hard to get that right. First, we'd like to invite Ms. Ethel Anderson and her family, along with the Mayor of Oxford, Mayor Jackie Sargent, for the oath of office.
Mayor Sargent, Ms. Anderson, her husband, who's going to have their Bible.
You raise your right hand, your left on the Bible, and I would like you to repeat after me. I'm going to say I, and then you fill in your name. I,
Ethel Anderson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Granville County Board of Education.
as a member of the Granville County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And with this, we make you the newest board member of the Granville County Board of Education. It is my absolute honor to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank
Please give her a round of applause. And what I would like for you to do, we have some forms for you to sign. We're going to have you sign both these forms. And I'll sign them and then we'll turn them in. Actually, I can we put me in there? One. To whom do I give?
We'll take a small statement here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Mayor Sargent, on behalf of the Granville County Board of Education, we would like to bestow you with one of our star pins. We believe in the 5-star service, and we appreciate you always for everything you do to be a part of the work we do in Granville County Public Schools. So this evening we give you this and a small token of thanks. You'll be coming back up in just a moment, so please don't go too far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So very much. And congratulations to Board Member Anderson. On behalf of our faculty and staff and our board members, we welcome you to Granville County Public Schools as our newest board member. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We're going to get you right over here. Let's see. We're going to switch seats this time. We'll have a chair for you. Let's see. We're going to do a little switching. Have a chair, I believe. Miss Austin's going to get you while we do that. We're going to bring Judge Finch up next, if we may.
Board members, it's now time to re-swear in Dr. G. Thomas Houlihan, and to do that, we have the Honorable Judge Finch.
I'm going to help.
And you're gonna pull.
Yes. What?
This is one of my favorite people.
Oh,
I know him for years. 6 feet away. Stand 6 feet away. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening to administer this oath to Dr. G. Thomas Houlihan to continue serving this county and its citizens as a member of this Granville County Board of Education. If you will place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. I'm going to read this oath, and if you affirm it or swear to it, you will acknowledge it at the conclusion of the rendition. Do you, G. Thomas Houlihan, solemnly swear that you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and will you faithfully discharge the duties of your office as a member of the Granville County Board of Education? So help you God. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You got to this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Indeed.
We've done this one.
Judge Finch. Judge Finch. And Dr.
I do.
Wonderful.
However, it's said.
If you'll stay here for just a moment, Dr. Houlihan, because on behalf of the faculty, staff, students of this county, we can't thank you enough for your willingness to serve again. We really, really appreciate it, and we're delighted to have you back with us once again. We hope you enjoy this small token of appreciation. Thank you.
I haven't heard any applause.
Well, by all means. Yes, the judge has already signed, so we're good to go.
We got it, I'm sorry.
This is Dr. Houlihan. And we have one more this evening.
I do.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Board members, it's my honor to introduce Amanda Lebrett, who will be sworn in for the District 5 seat, again by Mayor Sargent of Oxford.
So I think I probably wasn't appropriate with protocol because I was standing a little bit close to Mrs. Anderson, so we'll stand back a little bit. And I will ask you to repeat after me. Do you want to, left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. And repeat after me and insert your name. I,
Amanda Lebrett,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as member of the Granville County Board of Education,
as member of, say that again,
as member
As
of
member
the
of-
Granville County Board of Education,
Granville County Board of Education.
so help me God. So
help me God.
Congratulations and welcome to the Granville County Board of Education. Please give her a hand. Here we have forms for you. You insert your name as you prefer and sign both of them, and then I'll sign the box. And there's one underneath, one copy for you and one for the board. And congratulations. Normally I would give you a hug.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So, Mrs. Lebrett, on behalf of our faculty, our Granville County Public Schools staff, students, and our board, please allow me to say, welcome aboard as our newest board member. We are delighted to have you, and we're excited about the work we will do together. Congratulations on being sworn in tonight. Here's a small token of our appreciation you've chosen to do this work with us. Welcome aboard. This concludes our swearing-in ceremony this evening.
All right, board members, thank you so much for that outgoing recognition as well as welcoming our new members. We're so glad that our members are seated now and ready to get to work with us. Our next item of business on the agenda is the election of a chairman and a vice chairman, which will serve for the term of December to December. So I will turn this moment over to Dr. Mclean to facilitate that election.
Thank you. In a moment, I will call for nominations for the office of Chair of the Granville County Schools Board of Education. Nominations do not require a second. If more than one person is nominated, the board will vote on nominees in order of nomination. The first person to receive a majority of board members present is elected chair. Nominations are in order for the office of board chair. Are there any nominations at this time?
Yes, I would like to nominate Mr. Richardson, David Richardson, for chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dees.
And I move the nomination to be closed.
Thank you. Those in favor of Mr. David Richardson as chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Congratulations, Mr. David Richardson. You are elected chair at this time of the Granville County Board of Education.
Thank you, Dr. McLean. Thank you, board, for your confidence in me. We will now take nominations that are in order for the office of vice chair. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Pierce.
I would like to nominate Dr. Houlihan for vice chair.
Are there any other nominations? If not, the nominations for the office of vice chair are now closed. All those in favor of Dr. Houlihan serving as vice chair of the Granville County School Board of Education, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Dr. Houlihan, congratulations. You will serve as our vice chair. All right. Madam Superintendent, do we have adjustments to the agenda tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do. This evening, there will be no need to have agenda item 8.02. There will be no need to discuss revised academic calendars. There will be no need to discuss 8.02. That will need to be removed from the agenda. I would like to add an agenda item at the end, and that agenda item will be titled Distribution of Unused Furniture. Distribution of Unused Furniture.
Dr. McLean, when you say at the end, would you make that at the end of open session or after the close?
End of open session, please. Could we please move that, I'm sorry, and make that agenda item 8.07, distribution of unused furniture, 8.07. Thank you for that.
Board members, do you have any adjustments to the agenda? All right, at the superintendent's recommendation, we have a motion to remove 8.02 and add 8.07. If you will approve that by consensus, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, there are no consent items tonight, so we will move to special recognitions and presentations. Dr. Mclean, I believe first up is our holiday card winners.
Yes, I'd like to turn that over to Dr. Lynn Aubrey, who is joining us remotely virtually this time.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Well, good evening, board members. Thank you, Dr. McLean. First, I'd like to send my regrets for not being able to join you in person tonight. Hopefully, I'll be cleared back for in-person duty very soon. Mrs. Allred and Mr. Judy, if you're still there, thank you for all of your service. And congratulations, Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Lebrett. I look forward to working with both of you. And you as well, Dr. Willihan. So tonight we have two groups of folks that we're going to be recognizing. The first are our holiday card winners. And Dr. Myrick, I believe you have a PowerPoint, if you could put that up. This year we had our annual holiday card design contest, and it's always a treat to see these submissions. This year we had over 50 entries from our talented students from across the district, grade spans from kindergarten all the way up through high school. It was a difficult selection process, but we were able to zero in on 4 winners, and those are going to be shown here tonight. The first, Dr. Mark, if you can go to the next slide, is Chapman Burnett of JF Webb High School, and her art teacher is Mrs. Staten. And she drew and designed that beautiful snowman that you can see she's holding there. Our next winner is Miss Abigail Humphreys from JF Webb High School, and she submitted a beautiful country design of a barn in a snowstorm. Again, her art teacher was Mrs. Staten at JF Webb High School. Our third winner is Miss Sophia Serba Davis, again from JF Webb High School, and her proud design of the evergreen trees in a variety of winter colors during a snowstorm. Another beautiful piece submitted by Sophia. And our fourth winner is Hillary Ledesma of Butnerston Middle School, and her classic Christmas tree design that she has pictured there was a big hit among the judges. We are so proud of all of our students who submitted artwork this year, and particularly of these 4. We were very happy to be able to present to them a little gift bag with some art supplies as a token of our appreciation to their work and their talent. So we thank everyone who submitted artwork this year, and congratulations to these 4 winners. Let's give them all a big round of applause. All right, and our next recognitions this evening go out to our social workers. We are so proud to have a core group, and this is a growing group, growing in numbers, of professionals working the front line of attending to the social and emotional well-being of our students.
This small but
impactful team often works behind the scenes, tackling difficult challenges by building strong relationships with families and students.
These talented educators
have always been important to the work of educating our students. During this pandemic, their role has become all the more critical.
We take this opportunity to
recognize them for their hard work and dedication to their profession and our students. And there is a slideshow here with the names of each of them.
Dr. Mark, if you would please pull
that up. First we have Miss Lillian LeMay,
Linda Spool,
Daniel Jordan, Amber Raseski, and of course, Randy Michelson, our district attendance counselor, who works alongside these social workers. Let's give all of these individuals a huge round of applause for their hard work. And that concludes our special recognitions and presentations for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Granville. Next, board members in our agenda is our public comment time. Dr. Mclean, do we have public comment this evening?
Any public comment?
There are no public comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Next is our report from the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, board members, new board members, our returning board member, guests, staff, families, students, and our listening audience. I would like to open tonight's comments by congratulating once again our new and returning board members. I look forward to our work together on behalf of students, families, and our communities. Please allow me to begin tonight by also congratulating our art students and our social workers. They are all doing a fantastic job. Our art students' artwork will be sent to superintendents and school boards across all 115 school districts, our county commissioners, mayors, and board members tonight. Our district values the whole child and their skills and gifts in all areas. I would also like to honor our district's unsung heroes who continue to work day in and day out in their respective areas. We appreciate everything each of you do working with our pupils on a daily basis as we all work to bridge the gap between home, school, and needed services for students during this pandemic. Tonight, I am in a position to share that a great deal has occurred since we last met. As such, my report is full but rich and informative. I would like to thank everyone who participated in our first ever fall book bus. This is typically only done in the summer, but this fall, we were able to deliver books and snacks throughout the second week in November to students across the district, thanks to many district and community volunteers. Literacy remains a top priority in our district. Hot off the press this evening is that our district just received notification this past Friday that the North Carolina School Board approved our application for innovative childcare and remote extended support IPERS grant totaling $500,000. That deserves a round of applause. We look forward to delivering service to students creatively in this pandemic status. We are also excited this time of year because the Granville Ed Foundation sends the prize patrol out very soon. So everyone needs to stay tuned as to who will win this year's grants. I would like to thank the Granville Ed Foundation in advance for their support. The board, myself, our educators, and our students appreciate the support. Now, allow me to remind all of our parents of pre-K, kindergarten, 7th grade students, and seniors to please make certain to take care of those immunizations. Time is ticking. If you recall, districts were granted a one-time extension this year. So please, get this taken care of as soon as possible. The grace period for immunizations ends December 29th. School principals need to hear from you. If your child is a pre-K youngster, a kindergarten youngster, a 7th grade student, and or a senior, please get your immunizations turned in right away. Finally, I want everyone to know we are continuing to monitor all readiness indicators, and we are working closely with our health department in making decisions
about transitioning from plan to plan. And as promised, the data and the science will continue guiding our decisions. As always, we want students in schools. We do, but we want it done safely. As such, tonight, I will be making a safe, responsible recommendation to our board that demonstrates respect for the numbers and metrics, respect for our educators, and respect and responsibility for our students. Along with that recommendation will come some support structures for students and families. As always, with extended breaks, we will have child nutrition services in the community and even some additional services for students. What we want our students to do on their end is to make certain they take time to read a good book over winter break. Mentioning such, our pre-K through third grade students will be receiving their traditional winter book this week. The district enjoys doing that, and we hope everyone enjoys receiving their book and finds an adult with whom to share their new book. Before leaving, please be reminded that this year, for the first time in a long time, semester 1 ends prior to winter break. So please encourage our pupils to end strong by submitting any missing assignments and remaining in close contact with his or her educator. Semester 2 begins immediately following the winter break in January. I would also like to encourage everyone to honor very closely the 3 W's. We thank everyone for the wonderful literacy work occurring across the district. I, for one, am having a fantastic time reading and joining in on the fun virtually. A great deal of amazing work is occurring throughout GCPS, as you can see, virtually and face-to-face. But we must continue to be safe. I want to thank our amazing educators and administrators, and I want to thank our parents and our guardians for everything everyone is doing, trying to keep things together and to keep our youngsters engaged. As you can see, we are still on the move, and we are in this together. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Madam Superintendent, thank you so much. Board members, any questions for Dr. Mclean? All right, thank you. We'll move on now to reports from the chairman and other board members. Before I begin my report, I want to bring your attention to 2 things that are in your folders. If you'll take a look for them, there is a getting to know the board sheet that has a member information paperclip to it. You will need that getting to know the board at the end of this report. There is also a code of ethics for our board members, and I will speak about that in just a moment. So I want to tell everyone good evening again. I want to first welcome our new board members. Thank you for joining us, and I hope each of you have felt welcome and prepared for the work that is laid out for us tonight. Second, I would like to thank you, my fellow board members, for your confidence in me to lead as your board chair for another year. As we begin a new board year, I want to remind us, all of us, that our educators have been hard at work for almost a semester, and that as we have faced challenges as a board in this pandemic, they are on the front lines of our work by educating, caring for, and supporting our students. My heartfelt thanks to them that have worked tirelessly, and please know that your work is not gone unnoticed. Last year, we started our board year with 3 agreements, and I would like to make those same agreements with you tonight. We as a board exist to serve the children of Granville County and to educate them. All of our decisions should keep that the main focus. At the end of our discussions and actions, if we should have any consensus or direction for the staff, we should restate that and enter it into the meeting minutes to avoid confusion and any misunderstandings. We also would like to remind everyone of the purpose of the board and their role in being a positive role model for all of Granville County Public Schools staff, and our presenters at our meetings. We are all on the same team. In January, I will appoint a task force that will be tasked with reimagining what education will look like in Granville County for the future. This is the task force that you as the board directed us to do at the end of our meeting in October. And so I will bring those names to you in January. Per board policy 2120, we as a board are to agree on a set of rules surrounding ethics. Those rules are outlined and provided at your seat tonight. Prior to our closed session portion of the meeting tonight, I would ask that each one of us sign this statement. I have a master one here at my seat, so that Ms. Shave can file that for us in the coming days. Also, there is a sheet attached to the Getting to Know You as a Board that asks you to complete that with some vital information that you need. Some of that being contact information, some of that being your preference on committees that you would like to serve on. If you can complete that and get that back to Ms. Shave as well. In the coming weeks, I will send a few possible dates for our board to participate in continuing our master board training in January. As a small holiday gift to you, listen closely, we are canceling our December work session. Oh, hey, now don't get to listen. So our next board meeting will be Monday, January 11th, but don't forget that the afternoon of January 9th, we will celebrate with our winter graduates at the Northern Granville campus. Now to our students. I'd like to encourage our students in their work this semester and next. While we have extended grace to you during this difficult time, please remember that you are still accountable for your education. Work hard, do your best, and ask for help if you need it. We are in this together, and I want to see you succeed. Remember that Granville's got it, and what we have is the best and the brightest. Again, thank you for your confidence in me. I look forward to the work we will do together for the children of Granville County Public Schools. So what we'd like to do, let's give a suggestion that we introduce ourselves, since we're going to be spending time working with each other. So you've got a guide there, that Getting to Know Your Board. We're going to start with Ms. Day, and if we just work our way around the table, just a minute and a half to kind of introduce yourself to the rest of the board, and so that we can get to know each other. So Ms. Day?
Good evening, I'm Beth Day, Assistant Superintendent of Finance. I have been working with the school system for, like 13 years now. So, and I appreciate and I'm excited to work with the board members.
Good evening, my name is Ethel Anderson. I have been in Granville County, grew up and danced in Granville County since 2011. Love to support young folks, which is why I, looked for becoming a member of the board. I retired from the federal government after 30 years and still out here keeping busy and doing things that's going to help me to help our leaders of the future, our young folks. So I'm adamant about it. I love it and look forward to supporting on this board. Thank you.
I'm Glen Williams. I represent District 3 on the school board. We have new members, but this is my second meeting. I'm new too. But prior to, I retired from family business about 3 years ago, and prior to that, I worked several years in the school system, Granville County Schools. I taught 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. It's been a while. I won't date myself too much. And after that, I did serve several years as Granville County ECP director, and I enjoyed very much working with the handicapped and gifted programs at that time. One of my special loves during the time I was with Granville County was Special Olympics. We did that several years. I have one grandchild in Wilson School. I have another grandchild who's already graduated high school, and I'm very excited to be involved again with the school system and really look forward to working with our I think we have a lot of good things going on and continue to
Gregory McKnight. I have a daughter at Hawley Middle School, in 8th grade. I have a wife at Greenville Elementary School. My work experience and background. Well, I have over 20 years of experience in the field of education, everything from middle school teacher to principal. I've also worked at the State Department with professional development, and now I'm currently working at SAS EBOS, pretty much doing analysis on student test data. One of the goals that I have myself on the board is to continue to try to find ways to make innovative ways of offering diverse educational opportunities for our students. I think we're at a crossroads right now. The way things are unfolding. It's the perfect time to try to do something different, something new, take advantage of this current situation. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for this year is more innovation.
Elisa Mclean. I'm excited about some of the new board we have and the work I'm able to do as a member, getting the opportunity to work with this board. My background ranges elementary, middle, and high. My very first job was to teach 4th grade reading recovery. And then I taught at an alternative school. I always wanted to be a 12th grade English teacher, and somehow I never got to do it. So before I retire, I plan to do that. But I got to do everything else at sea, 7th and 8th grade in middle school, and 10th grade English, and all of that. I just love education. I absolutely love it. I love working with people. I love working with children. And I love that this board, I'm sort of piggybacking on Dr. McKnight's piece. I think we're at a great place on this board of being able to do things differently. No one seems to have any of the answers, not just in North Carolina, but across the nation. So it's a great opportunity for us to try new things and to be as innovative as possible and creative. And there are no right or wrong answers. So I'd like for us to sort of step out. That's a goal for me, to step out and get as creative as possible about reaching absolutely every child in our care. That's what I'd like to see us do in this district.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is David Richardson, and a little personal about me is I'm a product of Granville County Schools. My wife and I met each other at South Granville High School and graduated in '99. And so just very passionate about seeing this county succeed. My work experience, I mainly did accounting and business. That's currently what I'm doing. I also serve as the interim pastor at Pieces Chapel Baptist currently. And a goal I have for myself on this board is kind of what the others have said, is just we're at this crossroads. It's a new day. I think we're going to have the opportunity to do a lot of really neat stuff. I think the way education is going, we're going to have to reimagine it, as we said. And so I'm excited about being on the ground floor of what that looks like in Granville County. And one of the things that I always try to guide in decisions that I'll make on the board is what's best for children and what's best for our educators. And so that's something that I really stay committed to. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve with you.
My name is Eva Gibson. I'm the school board attorney. I have been the school board attorney for Granville County Schools, the general counsel for 3 years, and I work with the law firm of Dankin Smith in Raleigh, and all of my clients are public schools only. That's all that we do, and have been for about 13 years, and I absolutely love working with the Granville County Schools.
Hi, I'm Lebrett Peace, and my work experience, I was born down the street a couple miles from where I was a farmer first, so my dad said I wasn't working. My work experience, I worked for 20 years, 25 years at the student education department of a hospital where I worked as a milieu management specialist for behavioral and emotional disturbed adolescents. I also own a construction business. And I guess my goal for being here for the past 32 years has been to make it possible for all children to succeed. That's my primary purpose for running with the board. That's been my goal since I've been on the board, to provide opportunities for children to be successful.
Hi, I'm Amanda Lebrett. I serve for District 6. And, well, let's see, I have a brand new baby girl. She just turned 1 month on Friday. I have 2 other kids. My other daughter is 3 and my son is going to be 6 in January. So my husband is doing the wonderful duty of being at home with them tonight. And I don't envy him in the least. I am a professional musician. I actually play keyboard professionally with several of the symphonies across North Carolina. And so I work very closely with a lot of band directors and arts teachers. So music in the school system is very important to me. But the other thing is just, since I have such young children, I have a very large passion to really just make this, help this board and the county just, I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to put it into words. I'm just passionate about helping and really, I guess, because we have other parents who are also parents of young children, just kind of being a voice for them and making sure that their concerns or wants for the county school district are also being.
My name is Tom Houlihan, and I have had a background in education for many years. Teacher, principal, superintendent. One of the great jobs I had was working for Governor Hunt. Some of you may remember him, many of you probably don't. For 8 years during his term, and was involved in putting together the Excellent Schools Act. Not No Child Left Behind, but the Excellent Schools Act. Just a great experience. One thing that I'm really passionate about too is, can we as a board and the superintendent staff figure out what we can do to really bring about change? And I say that because I spent 6 years in DC as the executive director of a pretty much a major education membership organization, and had the chance during 6 years to visit in every state in the country but Alaska. And I can tell you right now that I did not go in any state to find anything that was really major change. A school here, a school there, that kind of thing, but as far as major change in the school system, it's just not happening. And somebody mentioned that. We have a chance. I believe we've got a board that can really make a difference. And I believe and one of the reasons I ran again is we have a superintendent who, with the right help, can push us forward. But I hope that we can figure out how to do that and fight our way through the bureaucracy in this state. And then the last thing is, I hope to be able to be a part of trying to get the commissioners to fund schools more in the future and to rate and give us the money to be able to do something at all. The next step in improving the facilities of the school system, which in many cases so desperately needed. So look forward to working with all.
Good evening, I'm Michael Meyer, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction and Student Services. I've been in Granville County going on 13 years, principal first at J.F. Webb, and then I was a director, and now assistant superintendent. And I'm just looking forward to the many opportunities that this pandemic has laid at our doorstep. So I'm looking forward to that, and just looking forward to continuing to move the students forward in Granville County. And I'm excited to work with the new board, working with the new board members. I'm very excited that we have board members that have children in our schools. So you will see me talking to you and listening and providing a listening ear. So we're very excited to have you and welcome. Thank you. And Dr. Winborn is next.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. Good evening again, board members. I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but my name is Stan Winborn. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Operations and Human Resources and the Public Information Officer. And I am in my 25th year of education, all of which I've spent with Granville County Public Schools. And my wife and I are very proud that we have 4 children, 2 of which that have graduated from Granville County Public Schools and gone on to successful careers. And we have 2 that are in middle school in Granville County Public Schools. And so I'm grateful for all that you do for all of our children, but particularly for mine. And I look forward to working with you all. But thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I forgot to mention that I have 2 children in Granville County Public Schools, a 9th grader and a senior.
Mr. Chair, I forgot to mention, I have 3 great grandchildren in the Granville County Public School.
And I just got 2 great.
Now, I do need to correct something Dr. Houlihan said. You left out your star student from Johnston County.
Say again.
You left out your star student from Johnston County.
Oh, he was in the 3rd grade when I was superintendent in Johnston County, and his name is David something. But can you believe that 3rd grade or 2nd grade? Or
3rd grade, yeah. All right, well, thank you, board members. I think it helps us to get to know each other, to be able to work together. So I look forward to the next year with each other. All right, so we're going to move on to the policy section of our board agenda tonight. And so, Dr. Mclean, I believe you have some guests tonight to discuss readiness indicators.
I do. Before they come this evening, because I don't want them just standing, we do have Dr. Guthrie with us and Lisa Harrison, but you ladies can keep a seat for just a quick second. We have Lauren Curtis and Dr. Winborn. Lauren is back with us. Dr. Winborn with me. We're going to pull up this presentation. I'm going to have to turn just a little bit. But we promised everyone we would monitor readiness indicators. And we've been saying this since June and July, because we don't want any decisions resting on how we feel or what we think. We want data and information to drive decisions. And that doesn't just come from the superintendent. We work in concert with the health department, and we try to stay abreast with our partnership with Duke University and UNC. We take all of the information we can get, and we want the confidence of the public to rest in knowing we want children in school. We do, but we want them in school safely. We want our educators safe, we want our children safe, and when they return home, we want the homes of these children safe, so that when they return the next day, the children with whom they are in class are safe, and so are the educators. So there's a lot to take into account. And in addition, we want to educate the children well. Right now, we have about a third of our children reporting to the building for the hybrid blended learning. We have a large majority of our children virtual. So I want to give that backdrop before we get this month's re-entry update. We're probably going to have to also change this title because we've already entered. But for the sake of consistency, this is where we are this evening. So next slide, please. We're going to review the governor's latest executive order, safety protocols. You're going to hear from our local experts. We're going to share the readiness indicators themselves and then provide a recommendation and receive direction from you, our board. Okay? The executive order 180 was provided on November 23rd by the governor of North Carolina, and that executive order primarily focused on
the use of masks in all places. If you'd like additional information, we provided the link here for all other executive orders over time. You may find that helpful as other decisions are made. We have in Granville County Public Schools made certain to enforce the mask wearing throughout time since this began. Next slide. We already have strategies in place for all students, staff, and visitors. Our screening protocols are being followed closely. Mask, distancing, hand hygiene, cleaning, and disinfection. We work hard. It has not prohibited anything from occurring. We certainly have done the very best we can, but we still have things to occur in schools every day. We've had to utilize the subs as much as possible. Substitutes are very careful about where they want to go, where they don't want to serve, and we honor that as well. We don't make anyone do anything. We have isolation rooms in schools, but it's not because we aren't doing the very best we can with these things. We do try our best to follow every protocol there is to follow, but we still have things occur in schools. Okay. Masks are required. The newest piece of this is the requirement for athletics, practices, and games. That is there. This is a new piece. We put it in red because you've seen all of the others. Yes, masks must be worn all the time. There are mask breaks, but masks must also be worn for athletics, practices, and games. Next slide. Screening is required for everyone, and we do not permit visitors in our buildings. Next slide. Social distancing is required for everyone, and this is at all times. We continue to work with the ABC Science Collaborative. This is a partnership with Duke University and UNC. And as of late, they have presented the 12 principles for K-12 pandemic response planning. You may find this information on their website. We continue to debrief after anything is learned. We continue to communicate. We continue to plan. There's a great deal of work that goes into anything we share. We work very hard to be transparent. Next slide. I'm now going to turn it over to our healthcare partners, Ms. Lisa Harrison and Dr. Shauna Guthrie. We turn it over to you.
Good evening. We're so glad to be back with you this evening for our December time together. Some of you might have heard some of these data updates before. We are also glad to welcome the new board members. So we'll make sure we explain all of the data pieces clearly as we go through what we prepared for you tonight. So I want to make sure that we're giving you the latest information. Every week we get an update from the state of North Carolina Division of Public Health to the local level about each county that goes through a number of different indicators. So if you'll progress the slide, you'll see a state map that has numbers on every single county. So we're continually connecting to the state with our local surveillance data. Your local health department gets data every single morning about positive cases who are residents in both counties. No matter where the residents were tested, your local health department is making sure that we're following up with case investigation, contact tracing, and managing a lot of data right now. Next slide. You can see over time that we have had one curve after the summer months there, and now we are in our highest peak of cases now after the Thanksgiving time people had together, and also some Halloween festivities, I think, were the cause of some of this latest surge. In addition to the fact that people are just really tired of COVID-19 and all of the public health rules that we try to remind people of wearing the mask, washing hands, waiting 6 feet apart from others. People have done a wonderful job on the whole, but we certainly see the COVID fatigue and not everybody participating, and it makes a big difference. Next slide. Across the state of North Carolina, we've seen quite the increase, and if you've been watching the news lately, you are following the same trend. We have a percent positive of tests, a little over 10% in North Carolina, and that's the highest we've seen it so far during the pandemic. If you go online to the state data dashboard around COVID-19 and you click on testing as a topic, you can see the statewide data presented, and then in the next slide you can see a whole map of North Carolina, and each county is clickable. So you can go over the county with your mouse and you can see the data that are presented in the bottom left and right hand corners when we look at Granville and Vance counties. So Granville is currently at a 6.2% positive rate for testing, and Vance is right around the 14% mark. So we have had a lot of community spread in both communities. And then on our data dashboard locally, which should be next on the list, you may go anytime on our Granville Vance Public Health website and click on that link to the data dashboard, and daily, the data that we're managing of new cases gets filtered into this projection that shows you our cases over time, those who have come off of isolation and gotten better, and unfortunately also we share our death data, which is now above the 100 mark, and we don't like to see that. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see our active cases, and currently in Granville County, we have 551 active COVID cases as of today, December 7th. Vance County has at 600 active cases. We have 36 individuals hospitalized across the district, and we are contact tracing 569 individuals as of this afternoon. So our folks are busy, our folks are tired, our folks are grateful to be working with school nurses and administrators here. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Guthrie to go over a few other data points, and then we'll talk about vaccine readiness in addition.
All right, thank you. I'm Dr. Shauna Guthrie, and good to see all of you and some new people. So this graph is one of my favorites, and I think that's why they sent it to me every time. It was a special request, because I really wanted to see, it's something to see kind of the total cases, but I think especially now it's important to see how many new cases we're having recently. So when you look back to back into mid-August, when we thought we were at our peak, or when everyone else was at their peak and we peaked a little bit, we were kind of down there around 10 cases a day, 10 individuals diagnosed per day. That felt like a lot. And now, here we are with over 20, and it feels like a lot, and it is a lot. And you can see from that previous slide she showed, not only are there this many people who have it, but then there are even more people who have been exposed and are sitting at home, quarantined, waiting to see if they develop it, which can be a scary position to be in. Anyone can get very, very sick with this, but especially those with medical problems or over 65 are even more likely to get very ill. So that's really what this chart is showing. And unfortunately, it's going up and up and up right now. And with family gatherings and things, we know that there are more holidays coming up. We really worry that's going to continue to go up. Go to the next slide. There we go. So this particular chart shows a breakdown by age group. And just what I want you to notice is that the majority of people who are diagnosed are in that 25 to 65 age range. So on one hand, that is good because those are pretty healthy folks. And that also shows that we're not seeing huge increases in the younger age groups that are in school. And the way we kind of describe that is we don't think that children are driving the increase, but we also see is that the rate of children catching and turning positive has continued to go up as the other age groups have grown up, but they've stayed lower than all the other age groups. And the next slide is Vance County, and that's similar. The scale on these two charts is different, so it kind of makes it look like Vance County has a whole lot more than Granville, when in fact it's pretty similar, actually. We'll go to the next slide. This is similar to the chart that I showed that's my favorite chart, just new cases over time, and this puts the two counties together because as a district health department, often we're thinking about the two counties as one large area. Next slide. Around deaths and cases, we know again that 25 to 45 age group is the most in quantity of number of people who've tested positive, and pretty similar between male and female, and we know that in our area, Black or African Americans are much more likely to have COVID than other ethnic groups. And if you go to the next slide, again, those over 65 are really highest for severe disease and death, and that you can see on that slide. And again, Black or African Americans also have the highest death rates. Yes?
It's pretty hard to read that, but
It is.
and this seems to be a pretty important one. Can you share with us the top one, is that by age?
Yes, so the top is by age category, and as you can see, there's not as many categories as there were on the previous slide because we haven't had deaths in those younger age groups.
Will you just help
Yep.
run through them real quickly?
Yeah, so the, on the death one. So on the death one, the blue line on the top graph is age 20 to 44, and that's 1% of the deaths. And the next is 45 to 54, and that's another percent. And then we get into the 55 to 64, and that's about 13%. And then about half our deaths are in the 65 to 84 group, and a little over a third of our deaths are in the 85 and over group. And then in the bottom left, the females are blue at 58% of deaths, with the males pink. And by race, Black or African Americans are 59%, white is 38%, and then we have some white Hispanic that's down there at 2%. Thank you. You can go to the next slide.
We'll definitely tag team some updates about vaccines. A lot of our time for Dr. Guthrie and for me has been spent lately on planning together with our partners about the forthcoming vaccine opportunities that we have for our communities. If you've watched the news lately, you know that there are two that are in the lineup with an FDA independent review committee to look at emergency use authorization. One is Pfizer, one is Moderna. And the Pfizer one, we are supposed to hear a little bit more detailed update about by the week of December 14th in case emergency use authorization is granted. There is an Operation Warp Speed that has the ability to get it out to all of the states within 24 hours. North Carolina is slated to get about 86,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine that has in trials been about 94% effective, which is good to see. We will look at that independent review committee and be able to share more educational data once that is released. We are looking forward to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel when we have vaccination available, but that does not mean that we get to stop doing the 3 W's for the next 90 days. I think it's very critical that we continue these public health measures and the things that are in our toolbox to reduce the spread of coronavirus now, even when we start to have access to vaccines. We know our teachers are a group that are really interested in being vaccinated in some of the first groups. We will, and the first groups of the vaccine that come available will be focused on healthcare workers who take care of COVID patients, who are at really high risk of being around those shedding a lot of disease. And then we will also look at emergency responders and other healthcare workers soon after that. Teachers are certainly in another group really soon after we also take care of those most at risk for severe illness and death, which is that group over age 65 with multiple chronic diseases that we need to pay quick attention to. Separately, long-term care facilities and nursing homes are going to receive their own vaccine doses to be able to deliver to residents and staff members. And so we're looking forward to partnering with them and are also glad they have their own approach to vaccination because it's a tremendous amount of work to keep up with the data. There are 2 doses that will be required of both of these vaccines. The Pfizer vaccine will be required within a 21-day period to get a first and then a second dose. And the Moderna vaccine will require a 28-day period difference between the first dose and the second dose. So it will be up to us to keep up with the data and the information and follow up with people and ensure that everybody gets both doses so it's most effective. So the next few slides we can go through, just wanted to share with you the North Carolina plan and our vision for success is that everybody who wants a vaccine has equitable access to the vaccine. We want to know how we are all planning together across the state with healthcare providers in public health. We want to be transparent, accurate, and have a lot of good communication and translation of the science. We want to continue to build trust with community members and answer all questions that we can about the vaccines that become available. Data will be used to promote equity, track progress, and guide decision-making, and certainly we're going to have appropriate stewardship of the resources. Most resources that the federal government has provided so far has gone into the development of the vaccine, not necessarily the distribution. So we will do the best we can with what we have available to us and hope that the next year brings a lot of opportunity to get everyone vaccinated. So in the next slide, we have a 4-phased approach to this vaccination. The planning phase is what we've been in so far. We're hoping for implementation in the coming weeks and months. We'll continue to adjust and make sure that we are getting everyone what they need. And then we will transition out of the priority groups and go to all of the population over the next 6 months. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we are doing a tremendous amount of planning. We are thinking about our teachers and our families. I do want you to know, however, an interesting point of how the vaccines have been tested. The good news is they've been tested in more than 70,000 individuals. So that is a large group that doesn't usually happen this fast, but with a pandemic and a lot of people at risk, they were able to get a lot of volunteers to be in these clinical trials. That's great. The thing that you need to understand about the clinical trials is that not many of them have included children. So it's mostly been tested in people 18 years of age and older. There is some research in the Moderna vaccine that goes down to age 12, but initially the first doses that become available will not be focused on our younger populations. Certainly will be focused on those most at risk for severe illness and death, and those at risk of serving those with coronavirus. So I just want to be clear that if you have questions from families and parents about the vaccine, it likely will not be available for children until a few more months from now when we have more data about the testing in that age group. Is there anything you would like to add about vaccines, Dr. Guthrie?
I will just add, one, this is a good time if you aren't signed up for the Granville Advanced Public Health newsletter to go to our website, gbph.org, click on COVID and get signed up, because we will be finding as many ways as possible to notify people when we're able to administer to what groups. So the more connections you have with us, the more up to date you will be. Second, I will say, and this is sort of my philosophy of care in general, is that some people are going to choose to get the vaccine and some are going to choose not to. But I think it's really important that people make that decision based on good information and good evidence. I hate to end up in a situation where someone says, gosh, if I had known that, I would have gotten it 6 months ago. So I think as much as you can educate the children and their families about the safety of the vaccine, again, I will just say it again, it's been tested on a lot of people. We've been making vaccines for a long time. I will be getting it. Lisa will be getting it. And, worst case scenario, about my understanding is that it just doesn't work very well. I don't think it's going to cause serious harm. And we know at least for a few months that it really has not caused serious harm to anyone. And the harm that can be caused by catching COVID, giving it to someone else, and spreading it further is so much higher than that.
Are there questions that you have for us about the data, about the increases in cases, about the public health response, or about the vaccine plan?
Dr. Wood. Give us, the highlight of how the data impacts the kids that we serve. In other words, we know that's out there. We hear in the news that even the mayor of New York City, that kids seem to be safe in schools with this. And from your perspective, because you hear all kinds of stuff, what's your take on all that?
Well, I think the focus that we have to pay attention to is community spread. The numbers that we're responsible for sharing with you about percent positive and about community spread, about hospitalizations affect all families. And certainly, as you saw in the data around demographics, those in the age 25 to 45 range get the virus most often. but those above age 65 get severe illness and die most often. So what affects the children the most is just those community spread effects on families and the potential to really have it affect your own family. You are right that the data that we showed you don't show a lot of spread in kids. I think it's fewer than 13 percentage points of the total of those 18 and younger in Vance, and it was about 10% of all of the cases in Granville are those under age 18. So we know it doesn't affect kids as severely or as often, but that doesn't mean that when community spread is taking place, there aren't other risks and other considerations that we need to take. And certainly we know that a lot of teachers and those in our school system who are in the higher risk groups are expressing a lot of concern. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions?
Hi. I have one question with regards to it. You made a very important statement with regards to 65 and over are dying most often, but it's the 25 to 45 range that gets it most often.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was the first time I had heard that scenario there, so.
Yeah, and if you want to go back to those demographics, we can look at that again. It's the green bars. So this is the cases, this is the data around death. And just like Dr. Houlihan was mentioning, the two green bars, the dark green bar is ages 65 to 84, and the light green bar is 85 and over. So the people who are dying of coronavirus or COVID-19 are in the green bars. But go back one slide. These are the people getting coronavirus or COVID-19 in the top. So the light blue there is the 25 to 45, and those are the people who are getting it most often. And you see those over age 85 are a very small percentage of those getting it, but the larger percentage of those dying from it. So just like our vaccine plan has in rolling out, the place where we want to focus prevention efforts and vaccination efforts first are those more vulnerable populations to severe illness and death who are in those older age groups. And oftentimes they also have multiple chronic diseases at that point in their life, and that also makes you more susceptible.
Do you think the lower numbers for the older population are because they're isolating themselves more?
Oh, certainly.
Not just because of their age?
Yes, and we're trying really hard to keep them in our prevention mode the strongest, because we know they don't do well with COVID-19, so we want to prevent it as much as possible. You're exactly right about that.
Other questions, board members?
Thank you so much. We continue to be with you to share data and answer questions anytime you need us.
We're going to ask you all to hang around for a little bit because there may be some questions by the end of the presentation. And this is probably one, we know you ladies sort of touched on the antigen testing just a little bit. Are there any other questions here? I know Dr. Lynn received a little more information in this area about timeline, and that is a hurried timeline, we think. Is there any additional information here?
Yeah, so as you know, the state of North Carolina is doing some testing pilots in different school systems. You have to apply and be accepted. And essentially what it comes down to is offering antigen testing. So that's our rapid testing. And when we go for speed, we lose accuracy. So the test that is not quite as good on site or in collaboration with the school systems. And the primary use for this would be individuals when you have a child or a teacher who's come to work and developed sniffles or any symptoms, you can test them. But what I will tell you is if they test positive, then you know, and that may help with a little bit more urgent contact tracing and figuring out who they've been around. If they test negative, it's just not a sensitive enough test to say, oh, they're fine, go back to the classroom. If they test negative, they still have to go home and wait for that PCR, that 3, 4, 5 day test to come back before you know for sure. We don't tend to use it in people with no symptoms because, again, it's just not as sensitive and you're more likely to miss something and feel falsely reassured. So, what I've responded to people when they've asked me about the pilots in schools, one is if we are doing our very best to get the 3 Ws, then we don't have contacts, and it doesn't matter if I find out today or tomorrow or in 2 days that someone was positive when they had symptoms and we removed them from the classroom. The second thing with that is, as a health department, you would need some coordination with us to do that kind of pilot, and whatever you decide, we will certainly support you to the best of our ability. But this pilot starts the same day the vaccine is supposed to come out. And it might be putting us in a lot of different directions, and we may not be able to be there in the way that we would want to support you if you went forward with a pilot.
And I will add, and we do need a partner in order to apply to do this. And we certainly would want a partner like our health department officials, but at this point, I think you're probably as full as you can be, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. We appreciate the consideration, but I believe partnering at this time would be a bit difficult.
It would add a lot of stress to an already stressed system, for sure.
Thank you for that. Next slide. As educators themselves, I believe this is Lauren Curtis and Dr. Whitfield. Thank you.
Yes, I believe it's me, Dr. Mclean. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Guthrie, and thank you, Ms. Harrison, for that information. We're going to continue speaking towards our readiness indicators, and board members, you may recall this graphic previously. We've shown this at the last several meetings. From the very beginning, our task force that we put together helped identify these buckets or areas of readiness. You can see there we have operational readiness for our school district, the COVID data, which has been shared with us just now by our healthcare professionals, stakeholder feedback, and then finally information from the emerging research that's out there. So next slide, please, Dr. Meyer. So I'm going to briefly go over our operational readiness. We continue to have a very solid supply of inventory. We've got over 90 days plus of all of our PPE, our face masks, our face shields, our gloves, our gowns. So fortunately, we've been able to stay ahead of the curve and ample supplies in place. We also have sufficient disinfectant as well for all of our schools. So we've been performing those tasks without any issues. We've got all of our signage and so forth and things that we need regarding hand sanitizer and paper towels and et cetera. So we feel like we're in good shape there. Our screening process is also working very smoothly. I was surprised to see this figure as of our return to Plan B. We have performed in all of our schools and our central offices over 100,000 screenings. So this is going quite well. But we do have some challenges when it comes to staffing. We have had over 195 different staff members have either been deemed contacts or tested positive and have had to be really miss work because of COVID. I find myself tonight as one of those statistics at the house, hoping to get back in action soon. But this number continues to go up at an accelerated rate. We monitor this daily, and we see an uptick just in the past 2 weeks of these numbers. Dr. Mclean mentioned substitute teachers. You know, that's just one part of the puzzle here. We've had school buildings where we've had administrators that have been out, where we've had bus drivers, we've had cafeteria workers. And so, it's not just a classroom teacher situation, it's in all aspects of our operations. And this continues to place an increased stress on our ability to operate. You can see there in that second bullet that only about 3/4 or 2/3 of those people who've been out have been able to telework. So, and most of those are teachers, but we still, oftentimes when a teacher can telework, we have to have someone that can be in that classroom supervising the children that are in person learning on that day. And when we don't have a substitute, oftentimes we have to combine classes. And that means that a teacher may have to move to the cafeteria and have 2 groups of children that they're suddenly responsible for if we can't find a substitute. And that has happened. And it continues to become a bigger and bigger issue at our schools. Of course, we do have a variety of leave available to our employees, and 74 of those 195 have fully exhausted all of the leave that's available to them. So when it comes to this bucket, operational readiness, we're starting to see a significant strain, and it is very concerning. So next slide, please, Dr. Meyer. And I believe that turns it over to Ms. Curtis.
Thank you, Dr. Winborn and Jamie.
Yes.
Great. Welcome to our new board members and returning board members. It's good to speak with you again. I'll be talking to you about the next 3 buckets of readiness indicators. So bucket number 2 is our statistics from our local partners and North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. But we will also be building and be showcasing to you in January our own district COVID dashboard, where we'll be tracking and making publicly available the following pieces of information, and so people can see how we're doing in terms of COVID in our district. So we'll be tracking COVID confirmed cases among face-to-face students and school staff. We'll also be sharing active quarantines among our face-to-face students and our staff. We think these are 2 really important indicators that we want to share with our community so they can see where we're at and if we are making any changes, why we might be making those changes. Next slide. So another important aspect that we're looking at when we're thinking about readiness is our stakeholder feedback. We are seeking feedback weekly from our principals, and in your folder today, you have a hard copy of comments from our principals over the last, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. They've been sharing with us about classes being covered, not having subs, numbers of students out, numbers of staff out, numbers of students sent home with symptoms. We've also just asked them, just for their frank feedback. And so those written comments are what you have in your board folder this evening, and we invite you to look over those this evening so you can kind of see where our principals and staff are at, kind of with their mental wellness and also the level of preparedness and strain that some of the operational issues are placing on their staff at this time. We also met today with our reentry task force, which includes representatives from all roles in the district and a parent representative as well. And we seek their input when making decisions to ensure that we're hearing from all groups and from schools across the county as well. So, we have principals, teachers, bus drivers, office staff. We really want to be sure that we're hearing from all perspectives. So we continue to seek their input as well. Next slide, please. And of course, as you know, we are continuing to collaborate with the ABC Science Collaborative here at Duke, and they are providing us with ongoing and up-to-date research about how COVID is impacting schools and students, and we want to continue to provide you with updates. They presented to you last time, and we're hoping that they'll be able to come back to a future meeting to provide you with more information. Next slide, please. So as we've shared over the last few meetings, it's always possible that we revert to Plan C based on changes in our readiness indicators, and those could be both kind of physical readiness in terms of PPE and safety equipment, but it can also be upticks in our community spread, clusters, outbreaks in our schools, lack of staffing to be able to have school, and other safety concerns. Next slide, please. And so as a result of what we're seeing in terms of readiness and
trends in our community. Tonight, our recommendation to you is that K-5 students do not move to Plan A on January 6th. Instead, it's our recommendation that all students move to Plan C, which is remote learning for all, beginning December 16th, which is next Wednesday, and going through January 22nd, 2021. We would recommend that the board reevaluate our student learning plan based on COVID metrics when we meet again in January. And that we would once again do a staggered reentry when it is safe for students to return, and we begin with pre-K and self-contained EC returning first. As a part of this recommendation, we would also have staff return in cohorts as they did at the beginning of the school year. There are a couple of exceptions that we've noted at the bottom. Those would be high school EOC and CTE exams, which are starting next week. That will be one period day, and only students enrolled in that class that is taking that specific exam. Winter graduation, athletics, and driver's ed. That's our recommendation to you this evening. Next slide, please. As you deliberate tonight, we just want to remind you that the safety of our students and staff is our top priority. At this time, we welcome any questions, deliberation, and Dr. Mclean, if you have anything to add at this time, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Board members, that concludes the presentation. So let me kind of paint where we're at here. We have a different recommendation being brought to us than what we previously had. And so this is an action item. So I want to give us enough time to kind of deliberate, discuss, and ask good questions. So what questions or comments might you have?
Mr. Richardson?
Yes, sir.
Could you just real quickly go back and take us through time-wise or date-wise what we decided to do and the days we were going to begin something on January 6th or whatever, just so that we can all, and the new members can have an update as to what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Ms. Curtis, will you pull the chart for us of what we've done thus far?
Yes, ma'am, give me just a moment.
The timeline would be helpful.
And Ms. Curtis, you will be able to share your screen once you get that board up.
I'll begin, Dr. Houlihan, with our last orders of business was the governor gave permission for the districts to allow elementary schools only to move to Plan A when they found it appropriate. Our board voted to move to Plan A, which allowed for more flexibility and to remove some of the restrictions. We could have a little more space than the 6 feet and such. We decided to do that January 6th. What we are asking tonight is not to go to Plan A for elementary schools. Of course, that's for elementary schools only. We are saying to pump the brakes on that, to let's hold off on doing that. Part one, that's one piece of this. The second piece of this is based on some of the data that has been shared, is to, starting next Wednesday, the 16th, which is 4 days earlier than we would have gone out, 4 days earlier, to shift to remote. Shift to remote. So learning is still continuing. It's just being done remotely for all of the youngsters until they go out to their winter break. In consultation with the health department, and because of the nature of the metrics going in the wrong direction, we're asking to delay the return to school by 2 weeks and to stay remote 2 weeks after the winter break. That's the third piece of this recommendation tonight, to stay remote. So that if something is going on, people have a little more time
to get the assistance they need before sending the youngsters back to the school environment after that winter break. And the date would end on the 22nd, which means the children would come back on the 25th of January. So it's a good question because this ends up being a bit of a three-part. After we met with the task force today, after we met with the principals today, a few other things bubbled up we needed to take into consideration. So it wasn't as cut and dry as I thought it would be. But this is what we've done thus far over the course of the year. The other piece you heard language about in here is to make sure when we do return, and this is still, I want to still give the caveat, that's if the metrics say it's safe to do so in January. When it's safe to do so, and we have a meeting on January 11th, so we get to discuss it again. If it is safe to do so, let's stagger in our easy self-contained, and the law says if you have any youngsters in school, you must bring pre-K back as well. So we will have to bring pre-K back if we bring our easy self-contained back. So those two will need to come together. So that's why those are there. That's how we staggered them in at the start of the year. So our pre-K, and at that time we have K, but we're asking for easy self-contained. Well, we began with pre-K, K, self-contained. We staggered them in. We had a gradual re-entry of grades 1 through 12 mid-October, and the plan was then to go to Plan A for K-5 in January. So we're asking to modify that last line. Yes.
The staggered re-entry, if we work second metrics, we're good for the 22nd of January. If that's the case, were we talking about going back to what we did at the beginning of the year when half the class went in, the other half at the end of the week, or we would do it in the full, just sort of like a repeat?
We will probably recommend a return to Plan B to let people get acclimated to second semester, and then a launch into Plan A. Yes, ma'am.
What do you mean by Plan B?
Plan B is what we're doing now, where 50% of the students come Monday and Tuesday. We clean the building on Wednesday, and then 50% of the students report on Thursday and Friday. Again, it's all about safety.
And Plan A would be 100% can come. I mean, 100% who haven't signed up for virtual, so it's still limited.
That's right.
But we'd still be out on Wednesdays. with Plan A.
That's correct. That's correct.
Are high schools included in Plan
No, not at this time.
A?
The Granville has been running rampant with a lot of things we're hearing about Plan A, but right now, the last the governor's order included was just K-5. Unless you've heard something.
No, that's right. So at this time, middle and high school are permitted to be under Plan B. So, and the A, B, and C has gotten a little unclear at this point, but the governor says sort of the minimum standard. So you have to be at least on Plan B if you're in high school. So you can be more restrictive, meaning fewer students in the building. But the most you can have is Plan B, which is defined as you have to limit your numbers so as to maintain the distancing at all times. So it may or may not be 50%, but the best way to do it really is 50% rotations. Plan A means you can have more kids than that, even if they can't be 6 feet apart at all times. So that's what they have for elementaries, meaning you could have 15 kids in a classroom under Plan A, even if you can't keep them all 6 feet apart. So that's Plan A. Does that help? So right now, the minimum standard is Plan B middle, and high, and Plan A is allowed for elementary as of today. But currently Granville's operating under B for everyone. And your recommendation is to go back fully remote, starting,
Next Wednesday.
a week from today.
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay.
Not Monday, next Wednesday.
Wednesday, to go back to fully remote.
How is that going to affect Graham's, will that have an effect on the
Excellent question. Will that have an impact on exams? We are asking exams to remain intact. So we fully expect our youngsters in school for their exams, and we expect them to take every exam. They will report to the building as they need to for exams. The state of North Carolina is not giving any waivers for exams. So parents, we need your youngsters in the school building for their EOC exams. Great question. Thank you for that. We're still to have graduation on January 8th. It is outside, so we're still expecting the 8th. Yes, is that correct, Dr. Meyer?
Yes.
On the 8th. It is outside, we will have warmers, and we're excited about graduation on the 8th.
Dr. Glen, I know from the conversation earlier about going to Plan C, we started using 16, there was concern about CPJ. What's the clarification on what happens to them? Do they all also go into Plan C as well?
After some more discussion, we are going to ask everyone to go into Plan C in December, and we will bring our EC youngsters back fully in January. Absolutely, we want to make certain we are following all IEPs, but our self-contained EC students, we will bring back earlier than the other students when it is safe to do so in January.
What other questions do you have? What are other school systems around us doing?
That is a great question. Vance did not return, Warren did not return, Durham did not return, Franklin did return the other month, Person did return the other month, and we returned, just in our area. Wake returned, and their Plan B looks a little different than ours, where we serve students every week. I believe Wake does it by the week, and then a couple
For
of weeks
middle
off.
and high, they are alternating weeks, I think. Elementary, they are on Plan A. So 4 days a week.
4 days a week. So it's very different all over the place, Dr. Lujan. It really is.
So when you say return, does that mean return to vote? Return
They're fully remote.
Right, to be clear, the proposal is to go back to Plan C, which would be fully remote instruction, like it was in September.
And that's gonna happen next Wednesday? And return to,
Next Wednesday is the start date for that.
Yes.
and my concern is, getting the message out to, everybody that's concerned. How are we doing that?
How are we getting the message out?
Yes, that is what we wanted to bring this tonight, after hearing some of hearing some of the metrics and the numbers that are continuing to increase. We wanted to get a decision tonight so that we could start first thing in the morning with getting the message out in the district, which would allow us, 6 days, 6 or 7 days, so families could start making arrangements that needed their arrangements. We didn't want it to be, in fact, we considered Monday, but we moved it to Wednesday to try to buy a little more time for the families.
Approximately how many students are we talking about? This being a change?
Dr. Mark, how many youngsters do we have doing the hybrid? I know the virtual number right now. How many doing the hybrid, because that's what will impact the most.
I don't have that information here with me, but my memory is serving me correctly. It's about 4,000.
About 4.
Would you say that?
I believe it's a little bit less, plus we had several hundred that moved from in-person to remote in the most recent SAFE survey. So that, the number I knew, it's been decreasing. So I believe it's probably more like around 3,500, or maybe even a little lower. The majority of those students are also probably in lower grade levels.
That is the other thing, Mr. Pease, when we put this survey out for SAFE for second semester, even before the survey went out, we've just been honoring parents' requests. If they want their babies to come on that home, we've been honoring it. And so the number has been decreasing.
And just for clarification, those students who are taking BOCs, they will come on campus, take their exam, and then.
Yes. Yes. We have asked the superintendents about that. That is a state requirement that has not been waived. Those EOCs must be taken on campus at the high school.
My questions? Yeah, I hate to be talking constantly, but what really bothers me, we talked about this before, and you know how passionate I feel about it. We go to remote learning, we are gonna have, what was said, 3,000 kids, and that may be too hard, 3,000 kids at home with no technology, or rather no access to the internet. And I mean, it's, for me, I'll do what everybody wants to, you know that. But it just bothers me that these kids are gonna be, what's the right term? Some pick up practice. Some, I think you know what I'm saying. I mean, it just really, really bothers me that we're gonna have this many kids, these many kids. You get my point.
Point is, it's not close to what we'd like for it to be. But what's the alternative? And I don't like that either.
I don't think any of us do. Dr. Mark, will you share a little bit of the technology piece with the Modifies that give you a little bit of consolation? That report that we still have a few remaining. The report that Ms. Lofton shared with us this morning.
Yes, we do have modifiers remaining. If you recall, we purchased some with some of the CARES Act money that we have received. But since that time, we were awarded a state grant. I believe we received about 600 additional modifiers on top of the number that we had applied for. And we have them that run on Verizon as well as those that run on AT&T. And we have on our website a link. The parents would just need to simply go in and complete the request to receive a modifier. And that request will go to our director of technology, and then she will meet with, talk with the principal about it, and then determine how many or which devices that work best for that family. And we do have several that we still have available for families who might need. So they would just need to go on the website and complete that application in order to receive one. And we will distribute those until we are out of them.
Do we still have the buses out renewing the Wi-Fi?
The Rangers, absolutely. The Rangers are there. We even have a few more Rangers that could go out. But once the children came back, we had a couple that vandalized, so we pulled them in. Now that we're going back to this, we have reason to put them back out.
We have 175 modifiers remaining that we distribute. And also
back to the date that was is being talked about, which is the 16th. I was wondering, as opposed to going through Friday, is there concern about that? Because we've got students on Thursday, Friday that were out for Thanksgiving holiday, they lost 2 days. The ones that are on Thursday, Friday again, they're gonna lose the same 2 days, so they're getting a little bit of a double whammy. Just concerned about it is.
We talked about maybe Monday and Tuesday, an A day and a B day, and then we wondered if that would be more confusing because there was no cleaning day. We were also blending groups, and then we were defeating our own safety protocol without having a day in there. So we got a little concerned about that, but it's the same group again, that big group. Yes. But we are open. It is truly just a recommendation. I do want to say that. And we are trying to sort of find a happy medium. So we are really open to several ideas, and any ideas at all.
And Dr. Mclean, behind the scenes, I have some folks working on some stuff for me. We have 33,458 hybrid students. That's what those are listed in Power School right now. But at a high school level, we do know that we have some students who are virtual, who are listed to come in school face to face, but they're still logging in virtually. So that number may be up a little bit.
Thank you.
And also, I do want to add that the December 16th through the 22nd, those high school exams, those days right now are not early release days, except for Monday and Tuesday are early release days. The other days are down for school day.
Say that last part again.
The other days, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are right now are regular school days. So the students will be in school until the end of the day, end of the school day.
I may have missed it, but what was the thought behind doing the 16th versus that Friday?
Giving individuals time, you may have to help me with this, I may not recall, giving employees time to have separated themselves so that they have time over the holidays.
Yes, it creates a window before going out for the holidays, so that those employees who had been in the COVID or the isolation room and come in contact, it gives them some time to be separated. They pick up something, they can clear out their system, or they can make sure that they are in the clear if they want to get with extended family members, if they want to do any kind of traveling. This just kind of, we're honoring all of the hard work that they put in, all the sacrifice we've actually made. If we can do that small thing for them by giving them that window of time to socially distance themselves, I just think it's a win.
Safety, but when you mentioned that on the call, several of the task force members had an appreciation for the fact that our employees serve in the isolation room with our children.
Give them time to be with their family.
And the reason why some of this came to me, because it's a bit personal for me, in that over Thanksgiving weekend, we were unable to get with family members because the teacher was in the isolation room right up until Thanksgiving break. So there was no time of separation to make sure she's in the clear before we get with older or elderly family members. So we worked, didn't get with them over Thanksgiving break. So having that time is, I think, crucial.
So while that is unfortunate, on the task force, the educators understood that that was a piece that was significant.
Yeah.
The day, while it moved from the 14th, which I know doesn't necessarily honor that piece, it's still trying to strike a happy medium. So now it's the middle of the week. And that's why I say all of this is you get the essence of what we're attempting to accomplish on both ends.
Gotcha.
So we're open.
do you have more questions, or are you ready to make a or take a recommendation to make action?
I have one question.
Yes,
Feel free to be answered in regards to the MiFis and, the children that live way out and you provided MiFis and things like that for them. And I'm focusing this on the pre-K and going up from that level. What have been your results or analysis on them being able to, the parents being able to get things up and getting those, getting them virtually online? Have you seen, what's been the results of that? Just,
Well, in terms of the MiFis, especially the ones that are on Verizon, because Verizon seems to work better in our district, if the students are in an area where they have cell phone access, those MiFis work pretty well for those students. However, if they're not in an area where they can receive or have strong or stable cell phone service, then it doesn't work as effective for those students because the MiFis run off cell towers using the same structure as your MiFis. And my tech director she's texting me now as I'm talking. We have gotten 892 of those MiFis, and like I said, we have 175 of those left. And as far as the Rangers, they were not being used too well out in the community because the students would have to go and sit at the bus, and I think you had to be within 50 to 100 feet of the bus. And so right now, I think we have about 3 that we have that are available because the parents, and it just seems that it's more comfortable for the students to have those MiFis. The tech department, they are able to track the usage with those, the Rangers, as well as with the MiFis. And the MiFis are also connected using the same networking capabilities as our computers that we take home for our students. So there are certain websites that they cannot be able to access. And I believe they are turned off at a certain time in the evening.
200 of them.
200 of them. And then the others do not have the time. So just kind of taking those things.
And your technical support staff, do you have a lot of them, or are they getting the technical staff? Do you have quite a few on your technical staff?
We have about 10 or 12 folks in our technology department.
I see.
Well, earlier in the year, we were having issues with getting devices because of the back order across the country and state. Where are we at still with that? Are there still quite a few that we're still missing?
We're missing the younger grades. The younger grades are still missing across the country. We called again this morning, and we were to get those in October, then November, then December. And so those devices with the younger grades. And that's why we got them doing it. That's why that contact with the foundational years is going to be critical. So we talked about, so what do you do? Remote. And it's got to be very strong instruction, very strong. The MiFi keys have to be in place because people got to make sure we stay in touch with those things. So what we've given them, they have something, but it's not the touch screen like we wanted. They can't do some of the neater, more contemporary things like we wanted. So we're still waiting on what we wanted to have for them. You want to comment on that, Dr. Byron?
We tried to prioritize in our lower grades with all the devices that we have in the district, and we pretty much gave out all of the devices that we have. We do have some spares as backups when devices break and so forth. But in terms of our K2 students, we kind of looked at the students who didn't have access to a device at home and tried to get those devices out to them first. And because of their development, their developmental age, we are looking at and wanting touch screen devices because it's just easier for the children to manage.
I had a question about the hybrid students that are going the 2 days that they will go to remote learning. Some of those parents are going to probably be needing to arrange some type of childcare, that kind of thing. How much flexibility are they gonna have with what time they have to check in? I can see that for some it might not be a problem, but for others, how's that going to be?
Can you talk about that schedule, the teaching schedule for remote?
Say that one more time, I didn't quite catch the last part of what you said, sorry.
Me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about like, if you have a child that's going on Thursday, Friday remote, and you have arranged for that child to be in a situation where they're able to sign up at a certain time, but you're now having to find something for Monday, Tuesday. How much flexibility is there going to be for a parent if they have an issue with getting something lined up for that child?
Well, all of our lessons are recorded each day, and the teachers store them. It's called an LMS, which is a learning management system. In our lower grades, we use what is called Google Classroom, and also on the teacher's website. So the teachers can store the videos that they record that day, and the students can go back and watch them when it's
So they
convenient for
won't
them.
necessarily have to be,
Right, they don't have to be, but that live instruction with the teacher is, is key. Right, exactly. And we do have in some of our elementary schools with our packets and so forth, the teachers are making calls to those students who don't have access. So they're able to, sort of connect with them in a way using pictures, taking the pictures and then sending those pictures in. So the students do have access to those lessons.
so the teacher, the parents is gonna need to work that out with the teacher and let them know the situation and what they can work out.
Right, and part of our remote learning plan, because we have so many students that are remote, and this was something that basically was required by the state, we had to do something different with our attendance. So we have, it's called an attendance question of the day, and students are asked to go in and answer that question every day, and that's how the attendance is being taken during that day. And that can be done at any point during the day to indicate that that student is in school. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Answer the question.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation as stated.
I have a motion by Dr. McKnight to accept the staff's recommendation as presented. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Anderson. What further discussion do you have? All right, Dr. McLean, do you mind going over that recommendation just one more time?
Absolutely. The recommendation is that we do not move to Plan A on January 6th of 2021. Instead, all students will move to Plan C for remote learning December 16th through January 22nd, with a few exceptions. Our high school end of course exams and our CTE exams will remain intact December 16th through 22nd in the schoolhouse. Winter graduation will remain intact January 8th. Athletics and driver's ed will remain intact. We are asking our Board of Education to reevaluate all of our student learning plans, meaning this Plan C, based on the COVID metrics at their January 11th meeting. And when it is determined safe to return students to school, we are asking that we return our pre-K and self-contained EC students first with a staggered entry based on COVID metrics. Our staff will be rotated in cohorts as they did at the beginning of the school year.
All right, so we have a recommendation from our staff, motion by Dr. McKnight, second by Ms. Anderson. Any further discussion before we vote? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion passes, and that will begin our work to start getting that out.
Thank you for the work.
Great, thank you, staff and board members. We will now, if you remember, we took out 8.02. We will now move to 8.03, our fall high school exam schedule.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Mclean. I'm Angie Salisbury. I am secondary schools, high school coordinator and CTE curriculum and instructional management coordinator. CTE is career and technical education. We are charged with still giving state exams. Exams will count for all students as 20% of their final course grade. Participation rates for students enrolled in end-of-course tests, which are Math 1, Math 3, English 2, and Biology. That expectation is 95% of the students enrolled in those courses. For career and technical education courses that have assessments, we're very fortunate that this year there are some courses that have proofs of learning, which allow students to gain credentials or do a performance-based measurement. But all students enrolled in CTE assessments, 100% are expected to take that state test. So we are making every effort to ensure that we meet the needs of all of our students and families. We have our exam schedule. High schools have put that schedule out there, and they are making sure that these students know you are expected to take this test in school, in the schoolhouse. Dr. McLean said a few minutes ago. But these testing coordinators are working with families that have unique situations. They are working with them to test after school when other students aren't there. They are working to test one-on-one. I was at South Granville the other day and heard them talk about there was a student who was potentially at risk, and that student could come in the front door and just go into the counseling center and take their test. So they are making absolutely every arrangement that they can. We know that there may be some situations where the principal may need to work out a plan for that student to be tested in January. Students will receive an incomplete exam grade until the testing situation has been resolved. So they will not receive a 0. It will be an incomplete until we can work that out. And the state has actually given us until May, the whole rest of the school year, to make up state testing as we need. The final exam schedule for Granville County Public Schools, because of the A-Day, B-Day, we did Monday and Tuesday one day will be the A-Day, and Tuesday will be the B-Day. Wednesday, which is usually an asynchronous day, will be an exam day, first period exam. All of those EOCs and CTE exams, those students will have to come into the school. All other exams will be virtual. Thursday the 17th, Friday the 18th, and then Monday the 21st, and we'll go by period, first, second, third, and fourth. Monday the 21st and Tuesday the 22nd are early release days in the calendar. The afternoons of the other days will be review sessions, and they will be virtual review sessions. Any questions?
Salisbury, what happens if we don't reach that 95% mark?
Schools, principals will have to write a letter explaining why we did not meet that 95% or 100% mark.
and defining a plan for what we will do in the future so that we make sure that we test all those that we are supposed to test. And so my prediction is that all schools in the state of North Carolina are gonna have to write a letter.
Excellent. Board members, any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Halter. All right, moving on, we have our academic performance update is 8.04. Madam Superintendent.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Myrick. Please take it away, please.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm going to ask Dr. Felicia Whitaker and Mr. Anthony Herndon to join us, as well as Ms. Angie Salisbury with our academic updates. And what we have attempted to do this year is just support teachers as well as our principals through a remote setting, and just trying to give them some strategies that we have found that are really working. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Whitaker.
Good evening, board. Dr. Mclean. I am Felicia Whitaker, and I am the district's literacy specialist and middle school coordinator. So for English 2, our instructional goal is that we want to make sure we're providing instruction that will enable students to graduate meeting or exceeding the North Carolina College and Career Readiness Standards in reading, comprehension, and writing. Some of the things that we've done thus far to support instruction, we provided teachers with professional development through NCDPI on formative assessments, scaffolding, and using new resources that DPI has put out for ELA instruction. We are also doing ELA walkthroughs and providing feedback. I will either go into the school and do those walkthroughs individually or collaborate with the principals, assistant principals, and we do walkthroughs as a team, and then come back and calibrate the data. Once we look at the data, we use that to figure out what our strengths are in areas in which we can provide teachers with additional support for PD. We're also using all of the resources given to us by NCDPI, the ELA resources and the ELA Live Binder. Those resources and strategies are aligned with the Granville County Public Schools core instructional model. We are meeting once a month in ELA PLCs where we are discussing and building upon our professional development. We're having collaborative discussions and planning around best instructional strategies and resources. We also have teachers at each of our PLCs to share either a best strategy or a resource. Next slide. The second slide shows what our performance goals are for English 2 by school for this academic school year. And as you see, each school, they have different goals, and we have 3 schools who are reaching for at or above 60%, but most of our schools are trying to increase by at least 20% proficiency. How are we preparing? We have an intentional focus and instruction on teaching informational texts that align with our literary texts. When we looked at our EOC data, we saw that reading for information is the lowest area of performance across the district, and so we're intentionally pulling in informational texts, aligning our lesson plans and resources with making sure students are able to read, understand, and analyze those texts. We also have an ELA review materials Google folder where all teachers can go and pull lessons to review for English 2. We have a 10-day review packet, and we're also using our EOC release test and TE21 pre and post assessments. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Herndon, the District Math Specialist for Granville County. And so I work with math teachers, and we're supporting them as we go throughout this pandemic. Our goal is we really want our students to have an authentic command of mathematical concepts by pursuing with equal intensity the 3 aspects of rigor, which is conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, and application. As a district, what we are focusing on in preparation of EOCs and working with students is utilizing the resources that have been provided by DPI. We have NC check-ins that our students have taken or will continue to take. We also have test specifications as well as a snapshot tool as well. We have achievement level descriptions, what kind of tells the teacher exactly what skills are necessary for a student to be considered proficient in that particular mathematics course. We also use release tests as well to give a guide so the students would know what type of questions they will be facing when they begin to take their exam. I meet monthly with our POCs, teachers, and we focus on pacing and priority, content standards, and skills. We know this is a difficult time, and we want to really focus on those things that are important for students to know. We also have been exposing our teachers and students to online tools. Each student on their Chromebook has what is called a TI-84 Chromebook app, which is given to us by Texas Instrument, which is the same thing as the handheld calculator that they have if they were physically in class. So all students have access to that type of technology. Desmos is the online testing program that students take their state tests. So we are working with our students for them to be acclimated with those tools so they can be successful. And then also we have CODAP, which is a common online data analysis platform. That's something new, but we think that's going to really help our students grow as well. We also focus on student engagement and strategies. Our teachers are offering small group opportunities where they can meet one-on-one with their teacher, get the assistance, and get the help that they have. This past week, we've had a math showcase, which is virtual. I think it was a wonderful opportunity for our teachers to see different strategies and programs that they can use with their students in this virtual setting. And so to prepare our students for the EOCs, we are using intentional focus and instruction on priority standards and skills needed to be proficient. Each high school teacher has access to EOC review materials and also the EOC 10-day plan or review that they can focus on with their students. We're continuing using the check-ins as well as the TE21 pre and post assessments as well. Thank you.
So this next one, I will help Ms. Salisbury out just a little bit. She is working with social studies. However, while Ms. Curtis was out on leave, Ms. Salisbury stepped in and helped with our biology teachers.
So the biggest thing with biology was to ensure that our teachers had the latest released test and were able to utilize that in preparing students for the state test. A really exciting part that I was able to be a part of was Ms. Curtis wrote a grant and received that grant for all of our science teachers, K-12, to have access to this virtual, highly interactive online simulations called Gizmos. And teachers and students throughout our school system are using this. And for biology, for instance, it gives teachers and students the opportunity to dissect a cell or look at a cell under a microscope virtually and be able to interact with that cell and learn the pieces of the cell. So that was very exciting for us to be able to do that.
Thank you. And the next slide just talks about some of the professional development offerings that we've had throughout this first semester that they've talked about a little bit. And we particularly focus on these professional development opportunities, again, to support our high school teachers. And I do want to mention that in the spring, in January, we will be offering, you've heard us talk a lot about Kagan training, we will be able to offer that to our CTE teachers in a virtual setting, which engaging students using Kagan. So we're very excited to be able to offer that to our CTE teachers as well as our principals.
Through Zoom.
Through Zoom, I'm sorry, engaging through Zoom. So that's going to be very good for our teachers. Moving on, we did mention winter graduation before. It is still scheduled for January the 8th. We will be at Northern Granville Middle School, and it will be outside. We will plan to have some sort of heating source around it, maybe a couple of sticks of wood kind of burning, or the electric heater that I have in my office maybe plugged in and kind of gather around it. But I will say, just looking at the amount of time it took for our summer graduations, this class is about the size of early college's class right now. And so I think we estimated early college took about 40 minutes this summer. So we're thinking it's about 10 less than what we have for early college. So we're thinking that we should be able to be done in about 30 minutes. So we will go outside right at the beginning and be out there freezing cold for about 30 minutes. So we're looking forward to that. And inclement weather date right now is January the 17th. So we would just keep our fingers crossed for a nice brisk day on Friday, January the 8th. Get those young folks graduated and on to their next adventure. Our next section is instructional coaches, and I do want to take this opportunity to, again, thank the board for allowing us this opportunity to add these 2 instructional coaches. They have hit the ground running in our district, and I just want to quickly introduce them to you. April Davis, as you can see, she will be serving Northern Granville Middle, Lebrett Middle, and Elementary, as well as Granville Academy. And since we had 2 instructional coaches, if you recall back when we were discussing this, we were going to give priority to our schools who were deemed consistently low performing from the state. And so the numbers with the asterisk, Ms. Davis is located at Northern Granville, and she will be spending 1.5 to 2 days a week at that school, supporting that staff, as well as 1.5 to 2 days a week at Butler STEM Middle School, supporting that staff. Kelly Walton is not new to our district. Kelly has been in our district for many years as a teacher and as well as a reading teacher, at West Oxford Elementary School. So we are very excited to have her join the team at the district level and support our teachers at Cradle, Creedmoor, Stovall, and West Oxford Elementary School. And again, she also will be focusing a lot of her attention on our schools that have the most need. And that is the academic updates for this evening. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, academic team. Next up is our second semester SAFE update, 8.05. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our board asks that we take the opportunity to give parents a chance to change their child's learning platform if they are interested mid-year. And this is that update. Dr. Margaret, please take it away.
Thank you. Our second semester SAFE update, the window was open for about 2 weeks in November. And during that time, the parents were able to go in and access and request a change in their students' SAFE. So we had a relatively low number, if you will. We had 216 students who have requested a change, but we did have more than 380 responses to the SAFE second semester. But 99 of those respondents did not want to change in their child's learning option. So when we broke the data down, we were able to determine that 61 of our students wanted to move from blended to virtual. One of our students requested to move from blended to Granville Academy. And then we had 153 students who wanted to move from virtual to blended. And we had 1 student who wanted to move from virtual to Granville Academy, which gave us about 216 families or students who requested to have a change in their learning option from the beginning of the year.
Board members, any questions concerning that?
And you also have a breakdown by school, the last 2 slides, if you want to take a look at those.
All right, thank you, Dr. Meyer. All right, we now move to an athletic update, 8.06. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Timberlake is with us to give us a brief update This time there isn't much new, but we always like to keep our board in the loop because athletics is a popular topic in our community. So Mr. Timberlake, please take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Mclean. Good evening to everyone. Congratulations on the new board members and those who were re-elected. Congratulations to you. Of course, the uptick in COVID, athletics did not escape those modifications that Dr. Mclean already referred to this afternoon. Now the mask requirement is for practices as well as games. And right now we are doing cross country in volleyball. And if you look at the time line that we gave you, basketball started today. So that should be interesting, a little bit more rigorous activity with a mask. But we've been fortunate. So far we've only had one student athlete to be COVID positive and one is being tested today. Only 2 games have been canceled, and that's because the opposing team has to spread for safety precautions. So far, I have to give kudos to the athletic directors as well as the coaches for taking all the safety precautions and keeping our kids safe. Dr. McKnight had asked me a question before we had got started about how many students on Plan C that were actually participating in athletics. It's at least 50% or above in all schools. We included the schedules just in case you were interested in when those games took place. Most of you may know it's only limited to 25 inside, and we let the students, choose who they would like to come and, be at that ball game with them. That's it. If you don't have any other questions, that's the major updates for us.
Or any questions?
The 25 limit, that's the home and away?
Just right now, so that they can actually pay the referees, we just allow home. Okay, that's right, home. Thank you. Good question.
Mr. Timberlake, I can barely make it through a board meeting with a mask. I can only imagine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'll be interesting.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Timberlake.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, board members, we're now moving into the finance section of our meeting. 8.07, sorry. I think that's why y'all. All right, we did add 8.07, which is the distribution of unused furniture. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, the distribution of unused furniture is a unique agenda item I will ask Attorney Judy to assist me with momentarily. In fact, I'll ask Attorney Judy to go ahead and assist me.
Sure. The proposal, board members, is to allow students who are participating in virtual instruction to have some old unused desks that are currently housed in the Toller building, desks and chairs.
Desks and chairs.
Right, and so the staff approached me to figure out how if that could be done, given all the laws around disposing of school system property and surplus property. What I've determined is that in talking to Dr. Winborn, we're talking about maybe 50 desks, or exactly 50 desks that are mismatched, quite old, and were sent from various schools that could not use them anymore. And in doing some research, I've determined that the market value of these desks is minimal. In looking at other sales of surplus desks from other school systems, I would say $10 or less per desk is not uncommon. So we're talking about a very minimal value, and under your board policy 6560, the superintendent does have the authority to dispose of surplus property that is worth less than $1,000, which I think this group of desks would fall into that. So I've not brought you a formal resolution because I do think she has the authority to do that. But because when we declared the Toller building surplus, we didn't get into detail about what would happen to the furniture. We wanted to bring it before the board and essentially seek your blessing to make that distribution. But I can tell you that legally, my conclusion is
They have nominal value, and it is something that's within the superintendent's authority to dispose of, and that since you would be disposing of it only to Granville County School students who are participating in virtual instruction, that it's for an educational purpose, and therefore I think that it would not be a concern to dispose of it without getting market value.
That being said, what I would like to seek your blessing, your approval on is an idea I learned of last week. I'd like to have our maintenance department clean these desks up, and especially in light of the fact that we are now going to this remote setting sometime before this winter break. So I want this to happen rather swiftly. To get those desks and chairs, to get them cleaned up, and to assist our students and parents with creating or enhancing their home student learning centers. If they don't have a desk at home, we can help with that. I think that's something we can assist with. We have them, they are in the Joe Toller building. I'd like to get them cleaned up, and I'd like for us to be a part of helping make that happen for some of the children in our communities that don't have appropriate staging for schooling the right way with a proper desk and or chair, or whatever it is they need that we might be able to assist with that furniture down there. So that is what we mean by distribution of unused furniture. But we want to do it the right way and the legal way, and that is why we have to involve the attorney in bringing you that information this evening. So that is what I'm seeking your blessing of this evening, to have our maintenance department work to bring it up to some sort of order, so it is appropriate for distribution.
Yeah, I'm sorry, so just to make sure, just to make me feel abundantly comfortable, it would be great to have a motion of approval, even though it may not be strictly necessary.
So we're talking about at no charge, obviously.
No charge, and this is to Granville County Public Schools students. And because we are going remote, at this point, all of our babies are going virtual. And this is pre-K-12. If they need it, we want them to have it. So we will need to work up a process to determine what we have in first come, first serve, or however the need, gets determined. We'd love to have some input on that as well, but that is what I'm suggesting or recommending this evening.
All right, board members, what questions do you have?
I think that is commendable, and one thing I would like to and you just mentioned it, as far as the determination of who gets it, because you said it's only 50, and you said first come, first serve, but how do you actually, how do you make that determination? Yes. Yes.
We have not determined yet. I really learned about this on Friday, and I thought, my goodness, I've got a building full of furniture. And so I welcome your thoughts and your ideas. If you'll send me an email or a quick note about how you'd like to see us do it, I'm all ears.
I'd like to see it on first served basis, whether it be based on the need.
Let me ask the question to you of that. You said first come, first serve, but based on the need.
If the first person that comes to line already has one.
Yeah.
Then, that's not a need, but we do sometimes.
These are elementary.
If it's free.
And these are elementaries, that's right, the total is for the young, smaller children.
It's for anyone. We have high schoolers who have need as well. So
I see.
the furniture is probably more appropriate for small, but we have 4th and 5th grade desks up there as well. So it's a building full. We just want to make sure it's a good match and a good fit.
I'm wondering if we need to divide it out amongst the schools that have it, because advice is a thought. Okay. And then the principal probably has fairly good people.
That's a good thought too.
Principal social worker. I know time's of the essence, but is there any way that maybe we can get maybe some pictures of the furniture on the website or something?
certainly look into it.
Any comments? Do we have someone who's willing to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Peace to approve the superintendent's recommendation to distribute unused furniture from Joe Toller. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
By Ms. Williams, is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you all so very much.
All right. Now we enter into our finance section of the evening. Ms. Day, I believe you have some budget.
Good evening, board members. Yes, this evening I've got budget amendments for several funds. Glad to be bringing budget amendments to you that assign that we have a budget, a budget resolution in place. The first budget amendment is for the state fund, and this is the budgeting additional funds, CRF, which is coronavirus relief funds that we receive for the Granville safety management, $5,360, and adjusting the budget for coding, so it's an increase of the state budget of about $5,360. The second budget amendment is for the local fund, and this is neither an increase nor decrease to the total budget, but is a budget amendment within the budget for coding of insurance payments. The third budget amendment that you have is for the federal grants fund, and this is budgeting additional federal funds. You can see in the explanation, CTE program improvement funds of $11,966, 21st Century Community Learning Center funds of $330,389, and IDA 6B special needs targeted assistance fund $21,684. So it increases our federal grants fund budget by $364,039. The final budget amendment is for the other restricted fund, and this is our Fund 8. And this is an increase to the total budget, but it's doing a couple of things. It is budgeting some recycling revenue that we received, $3,885, but it's also adjusting the original budget resolution, adjusting for fund balance appropriated for the carryover grants. $9,366, which had originally been budgeted as revenue, but needed to be budgeted rather as fund balance appropriated, and then budgeting additional fund balance appropriated of $22. So based on the grant and the carryover dollars in those grants. So this does increase our other restricted fund by $3,907. All
right. Board members, what questions do you have, especially our newer board members? None. Do we have a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Peace. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Houlihan. Do we have any further discussion? All right, seeing none, if you're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, Ms. Day, you have financial updates?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Richardson. Board members, you have a financial update as of October 31st, 2020. At that point, we are 33% through the fiscal year, and our expenditures are within budget and our percentages are in line. You can see it is reflected by fund, board members, by the type of expenditure within each fund. That's reflected. You might recall that last year we did not have a budget as of October 31st. So I was going to compare it to our last year report, but we didn't have a report as of October 31st because there wasn't a budget in place at that time. The other document you have is the board travel for 2021. And this is a report that I provide every month along with the financial update. And it includes the board travel expenses. The 2021 budget for board travel is $6,424. And as of October 31st, $964.05 has been spent. And you can see the first side of this document lists the event and the date of the event, the location, but then broken out by the board member. And then the right side of the document has the type of expense that it is, registration. In this case, this was registration. So these were the expenses as of October 31st. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Board members, what questions might you have? All right, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Deck.
Thank you.
All right, board, next item on the agenda is 9.03, and that is update on the sale of the Joe Toller Oak Hill property. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we sent you an email a couple of weeks ago at the request of our realtor concerning the Joe Toller property. And what we would like is to hear the pleasure of our board. It was requested that we reduce the price from $450,000 to $350,000.
And I will note that it's not something that requires board action, what you listed at, but I know the superintendent, knew that you would be interested in the change and wanted to have discussions about it. But the property is up for sale under the upset bid process, which means people can make any offer they want, and then it gets advertised and put out for anyone who wants to raise the bid. So, and you have previously received multiple offers and had a buyer and were under contract. The buyer backed out. The other bidder no longer wanted the property. So, I believe that Dr. Winborn, I believe the high bidder was in the 280s.
Yes.
Last time.
That's correct.
So the listing price is not set in stone anywhere. People can certainly make any offer they want, and generally they're entertained.
All right, board members, so this comes to you tonight for us to have discussion. You've seen this for a couple of weeks now, and just would like to take some action tonight to give the staff direction. So what are your initial thoughts on this request?
Let it go. Follow what they recommend.
Other thoughts?
I agree with follow recommendations.
So, get what you can.
That's right. I'm trying our very best. All right, so if there are no other questions, do we entertain a motion to approve the recommendation from the realtor and the staff?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Dr. Houlihan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Peace. Is there further discussion or questions? All right, so at the recommendation of the staff and the realtor, we would like to reduce the asking price for the Joe Toller property from $450,000. The realtor's recommendation that the asking price be reduced from $450,000 to $350,000. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. If you're ready to vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, let's try to go sell it. All right, our next item is personnel. 10.01 is a teacher turnover report. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a report from last school year. Mr. Lebrett is not with us this evening. Dr. Winborn is going to be happy to take any questions you may have. Is Dr. Winborn still with us, Dr. Myrie?
Yes, he is.
All right, Dr. Winborn.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. If you would just go to the next slide. Mr. Perry prepared this teacher turnover report based on the annual data that we record each March. We have presented similar presentations to our board in years past. Just a couple of notes about here. This is a single snapshot in time comparing year to year and the percentage of teachers that leave us. Note that this doesn't include teachers who move from one school to another school within our district. So again, a March to March comparison. Next slide, please. So here you see the 4-year trend in our district. The rate has fluctuated. We have unfortunately increased since last year. We're down rather low in 17 and 18, but have since started to climb. If you go to the next slide, Dr. Mark, you'll see that this does still keep us pretty much in the same position regionally. We tend to sort of trend along with all of those districts around us for a variety of reasons. You can see Wake stands out as the lowest attrition rate. I'm sure many of you can understand why. They, have a larger pool of candidates and a much higher local supplement. But the relative position really has not changed much. We tend to be lower than Vance and Warren and just a touch higher than Person and Franklin. And that's sort of been our trend over the past 4 years. Next slide, please. So when we collect this data, there are 28 different reasons that we track. And I know that Mr. Perry said he'd be happy to sort of sit with any board members or provide some additional data, drill down into some of these reasons. But teachers can self-report 5 different categories, and those are listed below. So they leave our county, but they stay in education. They just leave our county for personal reasons. They were terminated, or they leave for reasons beyond our control. Perhaps that's maybe a licensure issue or something like that. And then they can simply categorize themselves as just leaving for another unspecified reason. Next slide. So you can see Mr. Perry's kind of broken it down there for you. The largest group, of course, went to go teach in another LEA. And as many of you board members who've been on our board a while know, we lose an awful lot of teachers to Durham and Wake and Chapel Hill and Orange. We sort of sometimes are the training ground for the new teachers, and then oftentimes they would go and seek to work in a larger district, maybe in a more urban area. So that's definitely one contributing factor to this. And I believe that's the last slide. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. I want to thank Mr. Perry for collecting all this and keeping track of it so well.
Board members, Ms. Williams?
I was just curious, do you happen to know the number that went to charter out of that 43?
I'm sure that Mr. Perry can work on getting that. I don't have that at my fingertips, though. I'll make a note to check with him about that. That does raise an interesting point. We've seen a trend recently with staff who retire from us and then go on to teach in a charter. And of course, they can do that without penalty, but they are not able to retire and then come back to work for us full time. So that is a difficult circumstance for us to be in.
Other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Winborn.
Thanks, sir.
All right, so we are now at the point of taking a break before closed session. And so
pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11 A1, A3, and A6, to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consider matters related to initial employment of an individual employee, to prevent the disclosure of confidential student records, to consult with the board's attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to discuss the litigation matter of IM versus Granville County Public Schools, Office of Administrative Hearings 20 EDC 04093. Is there such a motion?
You either approve it or you gotta read that again. All right.
As long as I have to read it.
I have a motion by Mr. Peace. Do we have a second? By Dr. McKnight. All those in favor of approving to go into closed session based off the motion read by the attorney, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, it is 8:50. Lost control of the board. All right,
If we
board
both are, then it's okay.
board members, we're back in open session. First item for your approval, at this point, 3.02, approval for certified and classified personnel exhibits as presented. Do I have someone willing to make that motion? Yes, sir. Do I have a second? Is that Ms. Williams? We have a motion by Mr. Peace and a second by Ms. Williams. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Madam Superintendent, is there anything else to add to tonight?
No, sir, I would like to just make mention that we will be having our onboarding of new board members. You have the choice to either do that virtually or in the boardroom at central office. So that is your choice. We will all be there. And then our holiday meet and greet is virtual. It is virtual, and that is for our entire board and our executive team with our county commissioners. That is all virtual.
All right, board members, do you have anything? I'd like to remind you tonight before you leave to please get with Ms. Shane and sign the ethics statement, and also complete your information sheet to give that to her so we can begin our work on that. You see the other dates there at the end of your agenda. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Promote.
Second.
Well, y'all get all giddy when it gets to the end. All right, so we have a motion by Dr. Houlihan, a second by Mr. Peace. Do we have any further discussion? Yeah, you want to tell us about that?
What do you want us to do?
The tagline to the slogan?
Absolutely. The New Day slogan is something you're welcome to take with you and do on your own and get back to us. We just like your feedback. And so if you get a moment over the course of the next week or so, just think about some things that would be meaningful to you as a board member as you launch into the new year.
Anything further?
We will need to reschedule tours now that we're going to Plan C. The tours for the end of this week still have vacancies, so it would be really nice if we could get everyone in on the 10th and 11th, just so that you could see. So that when we're talking about how the buildings look, how they feel, the capacity in schools, it would be a nice frame of reference for us as we have those conversations. In that we won't have the officers in the building on the 17th or 18th. We're going to need to reschedule those days.
So those are virtual, or that's actually in?
We're actually going to the building.
You are.
So I will make sure Ms. Shea gets that out to you. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay, so we'll resend that. We'll resend those tomorrow.
Nothing further. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Oh.